Everyone's always hunting for that next big thing, right? The next game-changing tech. But what if I told you the most powerful, predictable, and totally unstoppable global trend has nothing to do with AI, nothing to do with the latest app? What if it's a multi-trillion-dollar shift that's been happening quietly and consistently right under our noses? Okay, let's get into it.
And this right here, this is the whole story in a nutshell. While the world is chasing the next AI unicorn, the most predictable trend on the planet has nothing to do with code. It's just demographics. Every single day, in the US alone, 10,000 baby boomers hit their 65th birthday. Now, that's not a forecast, it's not a guess, it's a demographic certainty. And this silver tsunami, as they call it, isn't just a population shift, it's a massive wealth transfer that is completely reshaping our economy.
And this chart, wow, this just lays out the economic power in stark relief. Just look at this. The bar on the left, that shows you that folks over 65 make up about 17% of the population. Okay, makes sense. But then you look at the bar on the right, they control more than half of all the wealth in the United States. Think about that for a second. If you're an investor and you're trying to figure out who your ultimate customer is, well, it's right there. It's this generation.
So, to really wrap our heads around where all this is going, we need a framework. We need a way to cut through all the noise and see what's coming with some real clarity. And that brings us to a really simple but incredibly powerful little formula. Here it is. Policy plus demographics equals the future. It's honestly that simple. See, on one hand, we've got these fixed government policies. Think Medicare, think Social Security, that literally dictate how money gets spent on people once they reach a certain age. And on the other hand, we have this undeniable demographic wave of millions and millions of people moving right into that age bracket. When you combine those two things, a fixed policy and a predictable population, you get a crystal clear North Star for where trillions of dollars are basically contractually obligated to flow.
Now, here's the thing. This massive demographic shift isn't a simple, one-sided story. I mean, people living longer, that's an incredible achievement for humanity, of course. But financially, it creates two very, very different realities, depending on where you're standing.
So on one side, you've got what the big institutions call longevity risk, right? If you're a pension fund and you promise to pay somebody until they passed away, and all of a sudden they're living to 95 instead of the 75 your model's planned for, well, you're in big trouble. It's a huge liability. But for us, as investors, that exact same risk becomes a colossal opportunity. Every single extra year of life is another year someone needs housing, needs healthcare, needs services. It's a massive, growing market, and that's how we position ourselves on the right side of this equation.
So where do we start? Well, the first most tangible pillar is housing. And we're not just talking about regular houses here. We're talking about the specialized physical infrastructure and the elder tech that's absolutely required to support this aging population. So how do you actually invest in something like that? Well, the most direct route is through something called specialized REITs. That's real estate investment trusts. Think of a REIT as a company that lets you own a tiny slice of a huge portfolio of properties, like malls or apartment buildings, but you don't have to deal with any of the landlord headaches. And healthcare REITs, they're even more focused. They only own properties built specifically for this senior economy. And we're talking about a whole range of properties here. These REITs own everything from the medical office buildings where seniors go for checkups to skilled nursing facilities for more intensive care, and most importantly, this new wave of modern senior and assisted living communities. The demand for these specific buildings, it isn't speculative. It is non-negotiable, and it's growing every single day as 10,000 more people enter this demographic. And let's be crystal clear about this. We are not talking about the grim, sterile nursing homes you might be picturing from the past. No way. The modern senior living community is basically a resort. The baby boomer generation, they demand a much higher standard of living, and they have the money to pay for it. These are active lifestyle places focused on comfort, independence, quality of life. They are premium, high-demand real estate assets. Okay, so that covers the physical infrastructure, the housing side of things, but beyond the buildings, there's the second great pillar, the actual science and medicine that makes these longer lives even possible. Now we're getting into the high-stakes world of cellular health, biotechnology, and pharma. We're talking about companies trying to tackle the fundamental biology of aging, things like senolytics, which aims to clear out old, junky cells to make tissues younger again.
The goal here isn't just a longer life, it's a longer health span, more years of being active and healthy. And that, my friends, is a multi-trillion-dollar prize. Now, these two pillars, they could not be more different as investments. With the senior housing REITs, you're buying into tangible physical buildings that spit out predictable rent checks. It's all about cash flow. It's generally lower volatility. Biotech, though, that's a whole different game. It's about intangible intellectual property, a patent for some groundbreaking drug. The focus is on explosive, massive growth, but it comes with these binary all-or-nothing outcomes. It's much, much higher risk. So that kind of begs the question, right? Why are the stakes just so incredibly high in biotech? What's the one giant hurdle that defines this entire industry and creates this insane boom or bust volatility? It's this, the FDA gauntlet. I mean, getting a new drug to market is an unbelievably long, expensive, and just brutal process. You start with years of research in a lab. Then you have to go through 3 grueling phases of clinical trials on actual human beings. And only after all of that can you even ask the FDA for their final review. And at every single one of those steps, the odds of failure are just immense. And this is the absolute crucial point for anyone even thinking about biotech. After a company spends maybe hundreds of millions of dollars and a decade of work, their entire future, everything, boils down to a single yes or a single no from the FDA. That one decision can send the stock to the moon, creating generational wealth, or it can slam the company to zero overnight. There is really no middle ground. So given those insane stakes and all of the hype swirling around longevity, how do we make smart moves? How do we avoid the traps and find the real opportunities? Well, we need a filter. We need a brutal truth filter. Let's face it, the longevity space is just booming with startups promising to reverse aging or extend life forever. It sounds incredible, but so many of them are just stories. They're not real businesses. So how in the world do you tell the difference? I think the best analogy is a recent one. Remember WeWork? It had this grand sweeping story about elevating the world's consciousness, and it got valued at $47 billion. But under all that fluff, it was just an office rental company that went bankrupt. A lot of today's flashy longevity startups are playing the exact same game. They're selling you a futuristic story with no real sustainable business underneath. We have to learn to see past the story and find the actual substance. So here is your filter. 3 simple, direct questions. Number 1, does it have validation? Specifically, does it have FDA approval? That is the absolute gold standard. It's non-negotiable proof that the science isn't bogus. 2, is it viable? Is it a service that Medicare will actually pay for? I mean, if the US government is going to be your customer, you have a guaranteed multi-billion-dollar market right there. And 3, does it serve real demand? Is it solving a tangible need, like better housing or a new medical device? Or is it just selling a speculative fountain of youth fantasy? If an investment can check all 3 of these boxes, you've sifted through the hype and found a real, tangible opportunity. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've laid out the massive trend, we've looked at the 2 main ways to invest, and we've built a filter to keep us out of trouble. So how do we put all this together in a practical portfolio? The key takeaway here is not to go out and try to be a hero gambling on one single biotech stock, hoping it gets that one magic yes from the FDA. That's not investing, that's speculating. The much smarter strategy is to get broad exposure to these giant macro trends. You can invest in the entire theme of housing the silver tsunami through diversified REITs and the healing theme through diversified healthcare ETFs. Those are just baskets of dozens of different biotech stocks. This way, you're not betting on a single boat. You're betting on the entire tide coming in. When you really boil it all down, the aging of our population isn't some crisis we should be afraid of. It's a predictable, powerful tide that's changing everything. The only real question is whether you choose to get tossed around by the waves or you learn how to navigate them. So I'll just leave you with this. Is your portfolio ready for the turn of the tide, or is it going to get left behind?